Don't get me wrong, I change my opinions from time to time based on new discovered facts, things that I may not have known. At the same time, I'm also a hypocrite. There will be times where I would probably not maintain similar energy levels. We're all human. However, it's good for us to be able to come back and revise our position based on new information. And in many cases, just say, we were misunderstood or we were wrong and just move on. It's just that simple. However, it's fun making the videos about all of this, believe you me. And having been someone who went through basically what I call almost online, borderline online abuse for the sake of Gotham Knights when I was explaining these things, it's fun to come back and monetize the exact same thing when I can finally come back and, pretty much toot my horn. Or I guess I would say, bring my receipts to the table. There's nothing wrong with that. We're just having a conversation about gaming. I have to also confess to you, though, that this Until Dawn tirade that I'm on is kind of a trap. You see, there is a huge bottle of hypocrisy that's being sold, especially when the conversation is coming with PlayStation versus Xbox. When I made the video about Until Dawn, my initial target in terms of the comparison side should have been Starfield. But I knew if I went the Starfield route, I'd first hear Xbot, Xbot, Xbot forever. So I went with the Until Dawn part first and the Gotham Knights part so that we could kind of gather the information that is not Xbot, but see what people actually think. Because, there are, tinted glasses and people look at these things from their biases. And so far, it's been very interesting just seeing people comment on both videos and talk about, how they perceive the whole 30 FPS thing versus 60 FPS thing, and how, it's very interesting to also see what their thoughts are about the technology and about the limitations. I'm happy to have the conversation. However, I've noticed that a lot of the different defenses sometimes are, in a sense, insufficient to explain what had not already been explained by other developers whose games were at 30 FPS, or by people who were complaining that the game should be running at 60 FPS, but now most of them seem to be changing their minds, or people are just maybe demoralized, because now they just realize that the consoles truly cannot hit 60 at every single game. When I started talking about Gotham Knights at 30 FPS and pointing out how it made sense what the game's director had said, that because of the open world, because of the untethered open world, and because of a lot of the detail they put in the world, the game did not have a 60 FPS mode. I was talking about it coming all the way from Frederick Thailander. Frederick Thailander, some of you may or may not know who that is. He is a developer who actually developed about 3 or 4 games while he was at EA, and then moved to Ubisoft Massive and developed the Division 1, the Division 2. And he made a tweet about Outriders. Do y'all even remember Outriders? The game that was made by, I can't remember the studio, out of Poland or so. That was almost like a Division-esque type game. When the game was first unveiled, it was unveiled that it was going to be a game that required an internet connection, even for the single-player mode. Youngia was making a video about it. Everybody was making a video about it on YouTube at the time. And so Frederick Thailander came out and said, guys, the reason this game is online is simply because a lot of these consoles pretty much require for you to have extra hardware to run them. So for the Division, which he was an expert in, he spoke about the Division game and said, back in the Division days, what we had to do was we had to run a bunch of stuff for the game on a server, AI, all kinds of stuff on the server while we ran the player, and then we hosted the world on the console. This way, a console, which basically had a 2013 CPU level power, could have run the entire Division game. It's not necessarily that they wanted to genuinely run the game as a live service game. I'm sure that probably intersected with their goals, but the Division was such a nice, beautiful looking, detailed game that if you wanted to run it at 60 FPS on those consoles, you probably could not have been able to do so with the build of the game that they actually did launch. So the technical expertise that I've been talking about, most of it is not mine. It's from developers who have shipped games in the industry. They were the ones who brought everything to light. So when another developer was saying, hey man, we put this in our game and our game doesn't have a 60 FPS mode because we host the game locally, we give you untethered co-op where another guy can go out and do whatever they want, and most of the game is hosted locally on your hardware. I immediately remembered the Division because the Division does not host much on the hardware. So you can do that with the Division, and even still it was locked at 30 FPS even while doing that. So again, the whole conversation about 30 FPS and such is just unveiling what I think are biases everywhere. And people don't even know that they hold these biases. I'd show y'all comments, but you can go watch the videos for yourself. I don't even have time. The material is too much. I used to be able to pick out 1 or 2 comments and make a video, but now it's like 8, 10 comments, and I'm like, I can't keep up. Somebody told me and said, well, Until Dawn is trying to emulate a cinematic feel. That's probably what the developers are doing, so possibly this is why they've locked it to 30 FPS. And I said, do you know that the game is not locked to 30 FPS on PC? Can you justify that on the PC where it's not hitting the 30 FPS on some builds, but it's around 40-something, 50-something FPS? They did not prioritize trying to make the cinematic experience the emulated experience. You can't. So the game is limited on this hardware. And I'm for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not flaming PlayStation for it. Y'all got to realize that I'm not doing that. Somebody said I was taking it personally. What am I taking personally? I'm the guy that some rando, poop poster YouTuber made a video of when I was saying Avowed at 30 FPS was fine. They made a video about it and roasted me and put me all over the internet because I said that. So I'm not hating on 30 FPS. Do not get me wrong. Why? Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like 30 FPS was some kind of a poison when I enjoyed some of my favorite games at 30 FPS, even though, yes, I was already still playing The Division on PC while I was playing Ghost of Tsushima at 30. Didn't care. Right? So I'm not going to sit here and act all high and mighty and then talk about it. However, I'm just pointing out that the scales are not balanced. That PlayStation gets a pass every time. And people will come out and explain everything away. Somebody said, well, it's not really that bad because, it's a very slow-paced game. You know what was nauseating? It was another game, a first-person shooter locked at 30 FPS called Starfield. That's what somebody else said on the Until Dawn video, and I laughed. But Hellblade got roasted. That game, too, was cinematic. You could have, somebody could have come out to justify the cinematic thing, and it would not have been taken. No, PlayStation fans don't let Xbox fans even give any justification at all. So Gotham Knights was literally there's something they call it. It was a bait and switch for the most part, but it was here to unveil exactly what we've been going through. And like I said, I'm a hypocrite. I don't maintain similar energy levels. However, in this conversation, I've now seen that the stakes are very high. I kind of got into this whole thing just out of curiosity. I just wanted to just talk about, stuff. And then I'm starting to get dragged on the internet, and I'm like, okay, so we must be accurate. We must maintain energy levels 100% across the board. So I have to strive to that every time. I'll miss some things, but I'm just saying, like, yo, let's call it what it is. I've made many a 30 FPS videos, and I've concluded that 30 FPS is fine. Do y'all remember my Zelda 30 FPS videos? What were the concerns then? What did people tell me? People told me, you're crazy, man. How can you say that when Zelda is running on subpar hardware? It's not like the PS5. Here we go with the PS5. I mean, dude, you can go through the channel, man. Like, come on. Like, please, let's not do that. Let's just admit it. And actually, the premise that I started with this whole 30 FPS thing was PlayStation and Xbox, they oversold their consoles. The caveat that these consoles could not do 60 FPS is written in fine print on the box of both the Series X and the PS5. I own both of them, and I kept my boxes. I like keeping the boxes to my electronics, so if I want to sell it, I put it back in there, and I still have it. I remember when I was making videos where I went to Mercari and eBay, and I was looking for different, SKUs, and I found some that had the picture of the caveat, and I zoomed it in, and I was showing people on a Video Game Fight School channel and saying, look at the fine print where it says it, and it puts an asterisk by 4K 120 FPS. It's saying that it's only on supported hardware, so Tetris and stuff can do 4K 20 FPS. But when it comes to the big deal, no, it's not going to do it. But again, people have used that argument to basically throw games away that they would rather not have even played, or just the fact that they probably would have preferred to play the game but don't want to admit that they did not buy a big freaking FPS pumping machine, but were actually given the impression that they were buying a big FPS pumping machine. Another reason I didn't want to show a lot of comments from Gotham Knights, and I was telling this to one of my long-term OG, audience members, because one of the audience members that was actually dragging me back then, they went ahead and got a handheld PC just recently, and they're loving Until Dawn. They're posting about it everywhere. This same person. In fact, I didn't even know until I was going through the videos comments, and I was like, oh my gosh, this same individual is enjoying Until Dawn at 30 FPS right now, and there is a comment about them when they told me on the channel that 30 FPS was not acceptable, especially in today's day and age. But I understand that in all fairness, after 2 years, people now have a better understanding as to what the technology's limitations are, which it's always been. It just needed a lot of time for it to simmer in. And for now that, PlayStation is touting the Pro as some big advancement, the conversation even continues to boil over because some people are buying the same narrative again and again. While they're trying to tell you now, the PC players are trying to tell you like, yo, this thing is overhyped. Wait till you see games actually perform. Wait till the frames are counted and wait till it gets compared to the 4070. Let's see if truly it can do it. But some people are like, no, it's because PC players are insecure. I'm going to make a video about that very soon, hopefully. And we're going to have that conversation. So I just thought I'd put a little bit of context to the whole thing so that nobody is, confused and, sorry for setting you up. It is what it is, I just wanted to make sure, like, we're not running all over the place and not keeping similar energy levels. That's just what it is. It's all right. It's not a big deal. I'm not showing anybody's comments here. I don't have time for that, especially now. School started, I'm busy. But hey, take a look at the comments yourself. You might even see yourself there. Peace out.